Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. It's been a while since we've talked about a book, and this is Yumi and Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third book from his For Secret Project Kickstarter adventure thing, which I backed. And this book came out probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and I just finished it last night. Not because it was difficult to read or anything. Anything like that. I just had a hard time connecting with this book. Definitely my least favorite of the three so far. I did just receive the fourth book yesterday, so hopefully I'll get through it a little faster. But it took me a while to get started on the book because I haven't been reading much lately. I say that, but I think I've finished a few comedy books. I definitely have finished a few comedy books recently. But I haven't been reading a lot of fantasy lately, so I finally was like, I haven't had time. I haven't had time to read that much. So this went on, well, not this. My Kindle went on the plane with me. I've started the book on the trip to Poland, and I finished it last night. And this is my least favorite so far. I felt like this book, it has good character building. It has good world building. I mean, in a sense, it has good world building. What I mean by that is there are two opposite worlds that he has created for this. But I felt the problem that I had was, even for Sanderson, this book is pretty far-fetched. If you know Brandon Sanderson at all, I mean, if you're watching this, I hope you would know a little bit about him or maybe even read some of his books. He's known for creating very distinct, unique worlds with very distinct life forms and usually some sort of magical system. But all of that is all based on the same idea, right? If you don't know, his books, most of his books, not all of them, most of his books are set in what he calls the Cosmere, which is kind of like his own little universe, his own little area where there's a bunch of systems within this galaxy or whatever. And essentially at some point God was broken and pieces of God ended up in these planets and then have manifested into various forms of magics or whatever. And in this one, that's still the explanation for everything. Like, oh, it's God and it's kind of whatever. But it felt so less... It felt much less thought out. It felt much more off the cuff. It felt much more... made up, I guess. It just didn't. It wasn't interesting. It was kind of boring, kind of dull, kind of dry. The premise of the main characters and the things that they do are, like it just. I get it, but it was a very difficult read for me because I just didn't connect. I connected with the characters. So to get into a little bit of spoiler territory, if you like Sanderson, definitely read the book. You'll find out a lot more about the Cosmere. This is pre-spoilers, by the way. If you like Sanderson, read the book. It's got a good bit more information about the Cosmere. This book is told from the perspective of Hoyd, kinda. He's the narrator of the book, so you get to learn a little bit more about him. You get to learn a little bit more about the Cosmere and some of the ways that things manifest in the Cosmere. So you'll get some more Sanderson stuff. And if you're a fan of romance, maybe read this book. This is ultimately a romance book, which I don't have a problem with. I enjoy romance books, not necessarily like the $1 Harlequin romance books, but I enjoy a good romance between characters. And that was kind of the premise of the book. So now we'll get into spoiler territory. Yumi is this like mystic chosen at birth sort of thing. And her job is to stack stones. Stacking stones attracts spirits. and so that's what she does. It's this very like archaic, like ritualistic thing, but she's just stacking stones to attract spirits. She is chosen because she's heavily invested. And in Brandon's worlds, that means she's got a lot of soul or a lot of energy. And so using her ability, but here's the fun part, her power means nothing. Like it doesn't have anything to do with her ability to stacking stones. It just anything. This pair of scissors could stack stones and it would attract spirits. Apparently, spirits just like stones being stacked. I don't know why. Whatever. The painter, the nightmare painter, is I forget his actual name, but whatever, it doesn't matter. He in his world, it is enshrouded in eternal darkness, and from that darkness, nightmares kind of creep out. And his job is to paint those nightmares, which when you paint them, turns them into something harmless and causes them to evaporate. And so we spend, essentially Yumi one day has this amazing day. She just stacks like no other day, and suddenly the spirit shows up and begs her for help and bonds those two people together. And so every time one of them goes to sleep, they switch spots. So the painter gets pushed into Yumi's body, and Yumi gets pushed into Painter's body. And so this whole book is spent, essentially this whole book is spent with them living in two different worlds but swapping bodies every night, and they can see each other's spirit. When Painter takes over her body, takes over Yumi's body, Yumi is kind of ejected, but she's still there, and so they can see each other, they can talk. And so through this stacking of stones and this painting of paintings, they form a bond and fall in love. I mean, that's the real story. But the whole premise of the two worlds, it's just really kind of, ugh, it just doesn't, it didn't interest me at all. And the majority of the book is them teaching each other how to do their own thing, like kind of what's it called? What the show where do Quantum Leap? A little bit like Quantum Leap. They're jumping into somebody else's body and go, oh boy, and now I have to learn what you do, or else I'm going to shame your entire generation. And then, I have to learn what you do, or else people are going to die from these nightmares. And so they spend the whole book teaching each other how to do their things or discovering freedom together. The romance part was interesting. I liked Brandon. I felt like there was a lot more character in here than I'm used to seeing. There was a lot more insight into love and affection and the way people bond and the way people find commonalities amongst very different things. But the world building just felt like slapped on. If honestly, it just felt very not thought out, which is very much not the way Brandon Sanderson normally does things. I could be completely wrong. He could have spent years and years mapping this world out. But as a reader of his books, it felt very just kind of pasted on. Like the world building was just whatever. I just have to set something up, so let's just throw these two ideas out there. And then we'll have these two characters fall in love, which is the real story, right? That's the arc of the book. So I had a hard time reading it, but I got through it. I appreciated it. I did cry at the end. I did find myself emotionally invested in the characters. I guess just my takeaway is that for me, when I read Brandon's works, I really enjoy his systematic thinking of how to build interesting worlds and interesting magics and interesting technologies. And I felt like that was just kind of slapped on this book. Just because the book was really about art and love and connection, and not not really about the world. I doubt we'll ever go back to this world. By the end of the book, the world is completely changed and different. So that's okay. I'm fine with that. And I don't really need to hear more about it. I mean, I guess maybe I could in the future here, but part of what the world was is now gone, which means it's now just a world that has humans on it, I think. And that's less interesting, maybe? Okay, I'm done talking about it. You got thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is stoicism. It is a noun meaning enduring pain or suffering without complaining. He soldiered through his duties with what looked like cheerful stoicism. Thomas Pynchon, an American author. Stoicism. S-T-O-I-C-I-S-M. I don't necessarily make it means enduring pain. I think that's part of it. I think the stoic outlook is more that everything is pain. And you just accept that.